Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Bootser. Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name's Rene Enriquez and you are watching Uncensored. Welcome back to another episode, and we got a humdinger here. It's all about dirty deputies. Hence the thumbnail. You know what? I was just cruising through social media and I just saw a story, and it just kicked off this idea about corrupt cops in CDC, county jails, judges, you name it, right? And it's usually male inmates flipping female COs. I mean, it's common knowledge, right? That this happens on a regular basis. It's not so well known, but we're going to get into that in a minute. But before we do that, I want to give you an advisory that we will not be hosting a live this Friday, given preparation for the holiday, and my editor has things to do. I have things to do, but we will come back with a live soon, and we'll have it all in order because that first one was a cluster F. Uh, it was like trying to get the audio, trying to get this, trying to get that, but we will have it down and we will host it even bigger live. But rest assured, we're going to do it on a regular basis. We just wanted to test it out, see what the response was. We had a great response, so thank you all for participating. Those of you who did not participate and didn't get a chance because you worked or whatever, you're going to get a second crack at it, and we'd like to see you there. We're going to open it to subscribers this time. So it'll be open to all 50,000 subscribers, 52,000 subscribers. That incentivizes you. You want to get in the lives, subscribe to the channel. And as I always say, there's a variety of different ways to support the channel. You can watch the video in its entirety, hype the video. You can leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. You could become a member. There's different tiers. But really, it's your participation, so we appreciate that. Uh, Without further ado, let's get into this, right? So, this first image I'm showing you is Angela Parks. Angela Parks was a Riverside County deputy sheriff, sworn officer, and she fell in love with this inmate. This inmate, who they claimed to be a Mexican Mafia member, he was not a Mexican Mafia member, but she got caught up. She got romantically involved with this guy, and this is an image of her. She's not bad looking, um, but it stands to reason. Like, why would she do this, knowing that she would ultimately get arrested? Because this never goes undiscovered. It never does. Inmates tell, they become indiscreet, and they tell on themselves. So this story was on, I believe, TikTok, but let's do a little description. Who is Angela Parks from Riverside, California? Angela Parks is a former Riverside County Sheriff's deputy who became known as a high profile case in Riverside, California. The incident: while working at Robert Presley Detention Center, Parks developed an inappropriate relationship with Anthony Hernandez Jr. By inappropriate, it means they were doing the hokey pokey. Uh, they assert that he's a Mexican Mafia member. She conspired with him to have two witnesses eliminated during his murder trial. It further goes on to say, she's a county sheriff's deputy who became infamous for her secret relationship with George Anthony Hernandez Jr. She met while he was an inmate at Robert Presley Detention Center in Riverside. Their relationship began around 2002 and escalated into a criminal conspiracy. The crime: Parks pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit murder, smuggling methamphetamine into the jail, and being an accessory to a felony escape. She was caught after her fiancé found the love letters from Hernandez, which contained instructions to kill witnesses in his murder trial. That's heavy duty. The boyfriend found out when he found the love letters, and he squealed on her. But why would she do that? I mean, she's living with a guy. She has a relationship, but she sought out the attention of an inmate. Well, inmates have one thing on their hands. It's time, and they have high manipulation skills. You know, not all inmates. Some are as dumb as a rock. But the reality is that inmates they craft this. It's called flipping, right? You flip a cop. You flip a cop, and they do things for you, and it happens everywhere. Every prison I've been to, it's happened. In fact, when I was in San Quentin, the nurses in New Mueller Hospital used to do it on a regular basis. It was the norm. It was an open secret that nurses would provide sexual favor. And every prison has COs that are corrupt. I mean, this is a massive bureaucracy. I think the CDCR had like 30,000 employees, and some of those people are not of the highest moral fiber. Now, I'm not critiquing falling in love with an inmate. I am not. You know, love is love. Doesn't matter what you are, who you are, where you're from. Doesn't matter if the person's incarcerated, has money or doesn't have money. Love is just love, right? And I think there are a lot of women that would attest to that. And there's always been this stigma about falling in love with a prisoner. For women particularly, they criticize women. So I feel for the prison wives and all those other people that go through it, right? Like, why are you wasting your time? You're beautiful, and you could have anybody you want out here. Why would you do that for an inmate? Why would you throw your life away and wait for him and send him money? And why would a deputy do this? Obviously, something was lacking in their relationships, and I don't profess to know what the reasons were. I just know she paid the ultimate price. I believe she received 19 years on her sentence. Angela Parks. This was quite some time ago, but it's not an isolated incident. In fact, I ran a story uh, right here of Jessica Chavez. You guys remember Jessica Chavez? She was not bad looking. Her husband was a sergeant at RJD, Richard J. Donovan, and Jessica Chavez worked there, and she had a number of affairs with inmates, not just one. She didn't. It started off with she had a relationship with an inmate inside prison. He paroled, and they had a sexual affair. He became a stalker and started calling her and threatening to expose her. She went and talked to an individual in prison named Brooks, Rayo Brooks from 18th Street, who was a black gentleman who was a Sureño. And he contacted the Mexican mafia member that he worked for in prison, which was Richard Buchanan, Cheeks from San Diego. In fact, I did a little research on Jessica, and there was this that was on Teresa Caputo's Omerta blog. And it says, the hearing before Judge Esteban Hernandez is to decide if there is sufficient evidence to try Steve Dominguez Barras, 25, Rodney Dwayne Brooks, and Richard Charles Buchanan, 50, on a variety of charges, including kidnapping for ransom. Prosecutor David Bost told the judge that Buchanan is a proven member of the Mexican Mafia. Jessica Chavez, who quit her job as a guard at RJD Correctional Facility on Otay Mesa over her role in the case, testified that Brooks was a sleeper or a member of the gang, but not recognized as such by authorities while in prison. If tried and convicted of all the charges, the three men face a maximum penalty of life in prison, both said. Chavez, in a plea agreement last month, admitted to making criminal threats and agreed to testify against the three men in exchange for more serious charges being dropped. Boss said, he said she has yet to be sentenced and faces up to 3 years in prison. Chavez was placed on administrative leave in September and testified that she resigned in February. Chavez testified that she became friendly with Ernesto Torres, another inmate at Donovan, and their relationship became intimate when he was released from prison in May 2004. Soon afterward, she said she tried to break off the relationship when Torres began using drugs and became aggressive. She testified that Torres refused, began stalking her, and made threatening phone calls. Chavez said that while still working as a guard, she became friendly with defendant Brooks, who offered to get Torres to stop bothering her. She testified that Brooks made several phone calls to Torres, but Torres kept bothering her. FBI officials have said that the gang, also known as La M, is considered to be the largest, most established prison gang in the country. Prosecutors have charged Buchanan and Peraz with kidnapping Torres in 2005 after they were released from prison. They were arrested in Chula Vista with Torres in the car driven by Buchanan. Police have said that Buchanan was already being watched by undercover officers as part of a 4-year investigation into the Mexican Mafia. So that was on this blog, but this was a real case. It was called Operation Mano Negra, and she was caught up in it. Little did she know that the people she was messing with had their phones tapped. And this is Jessica. I'm going to run this again. I'm going to run a part of it again. When they kidnapped, they talked about Buchanan and Parra's kidnapping this individual for Jessica Chavez, the individual she had the affair with, who was stalking her and threatened to expose her. This is her calling Richard Buchanan when they kidnapped her ex-lover and they're on their way to eliminate him. Let's hear that real quick.
It's not cute. Hello?
Hello, Richie?
Yes.
Hey, it's Jessica again.
Who? Oh,
Jessica.
yeah. Okay.
Are you busy?
That is,
Is he still with you?
yes.
Oh, okay. Don't say what I'm saying out loud then. Are you guys gonna be busy later? You and your friend? I don't know who that was.
Yeah, how much?
I don't know. It's up to you. 'Cause I want to take you guys to have some drinks or something,
Oh,
dinner or something.
okay.
But
Okay.
I don't know if you guys are down or not.
I'll give you a call.
All right, call me.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
I will.
Okay, bye.
So remember that piece that I did on Jessica Chavez. Falls into the same role as Parks, Deputy Parks, in the position she fell into. She fell in love with an inmate. She began participating in crime. So did Jessica Chavez. She's the one that arranged to have this individual kidnapped and eliminated. But when she was caught, she ended up rolling. She testified against Buchanan, Brooks, and the other individual. So we all know the outcome of that. And these are attractive women. These are not women who cannot gain male attention on the streets. In fact, Jessica Chavez was married to a sergeant, and Parks had a live-in boyfriend. So I don't understand the reasoning for it. I don't profess to have any inkling as to why they do it, but their entire careers, their entire livelihoods are washed down the tube. Their lives are ruined because of this, but it happens a lot more frequently than you would believe. In the next case, Old Tawa, the barber, California prison gang linked to guards of Mexican drug cartel. In this instance, Tawa had a barbershop. It was called Headquarters, right? And he would have a CO come over there, and they actually participated in a plot to bust out an inmate from RJD, including providing a staff ID and a staff jumpsuit. In fact, let's read some of that. The escape plot was foiled when fellow guards ratted Erickson off. Erickson was fired in 2002. Okay, let's go here. It was a 52-count indictment. They called the barbershop the war room. I'm going to leave this up so you can see this whole ad here, this whole article here. So the evidence included testimony by at Erickson's termination hearing that linked him to both the M and the cartel. Erickson has since been moved to Douglas, Arizona, where he reportedly said, "I was railroaded," claiming he didn't commit any misconduct and wants to sue to get his job back. But he did acknowledge getting his haircut at Marin's barbershop, along with 50 other RJD staff. And when Erickson moved to Chula Vista, he continued to use another barbershop operated by Marin. So one of the defendants in this case was Bet Marquez, who allegedly had the cartel link. And this goes deep. I mean, this shows the depth of CDC corruption. And I'm not saying all CDC officers are corrupt, but there were multiple CDC officers involved in this investigation. So Marin's lawyer, W. Allen Williams, said that his client was not guilty and is a sick old man, not a godfather. We're talking about Marin Tawa. The barbershop war room story is merely an urban legend. But RJD guards and prisoners both testified at Erickson's personnel board hearing about the barbershop, how Marin ran it, and Erickson's involvement. Guard Sean Bieber testified that Erickson offered him $100,000 for an old CDC ID card, saying that he needed it for an escape try. Bieber went to reveal that Erickson told him of meeting relatives of Sarmiento who arranged for $500,000 for Erickson to spring Sarmiento by providing him with a guard jumpsuit and a phony ID so he could walk out of the prison. That's how deep it went. Cartels paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to CDC officers to try to get people out of prison, and CDC officers having links with known Mexican mafia members. As we all know, Robert Marin is now deceased, well-respected individual in the Mexican mafia, and he was from the San Diego mob. So this is really revolving around two individuals about the San Diego mob, right? You guys wanted more San Diego content. I'm trying to bring it to you. But the entire story revolves around corrupt CDC officers. Everywhere I've been, I've experienced this. There's no exclusion for any prison. And I dare say that anybody that's been to prison knows about a corrupt CO or a female CO that has had an affair with an inmate. It happens all the time. You put men and women together, there's mutual attraction, things are going to happen. It's just the way it is. In the next instance, there's a former California former worker at a California prison sentenced to 20 months for sexually abusing inmates. This guy was free staff and worked in the kitchen. He would take girls into the cooking area. In fact, let's read some of this. A former worker at a federal women's prison in California was sentenced to 20 months in prison for sexually abusing an inmate. U.S. District Judge Ivan Gonzalez Rogers sentenced Enrique Chavez to 4 more months than prosecutors recommended. His term will be followed by 10 years supervised release. Chavez pleaded guilty in October to 1 count of abusive sexual contact with a prisoner at the Federal Correctional Institute in Dublin in San Francisco Bay Area. Chavez was the 5th employee at Dublin to be charged with sexual abuse of inmates since June 2021. Others included the prison's former warden and chaplain. The warden, the chaplain, everybody was playing hide the salami there. This is a place where they were having affairs with female inmates at Dublin. Federal prosecutors said Chavez was a food service foreman at Dublin in 2020 when he locked the door to the pantry and fondled an inmate. The former warden, Ray Garcia, was convicted in December of molesting inmates and forcing them to pose naked in their cells. Garcia was charged with abusing 3 inmates between December 2019 and July 2021. He was found guilty of all 8 charges and faces up to 15 years. The former chaplain, Theodore Highhouse, was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Last year, an Associated Press investigation revealed years of sexual misconduct at FCI Dublin. The AP also detailed steps that were taken to keep the abuse secret, such as ignoring allegations, retaliating against whistleblowers, and sending the prisoner to solitary confinement or other prisons for reporting. That is a common occurrence, right? We're going to get to that in a minute. The retaliatory behavior of most correctional institutions when it's discovered that an inmate is having an affair with a CO or Federal Bureau of Prisons employee, right? Happens a lot more frequently than you think. It is kind of the norm for prison behavior. In fact, part of the CCPOA and the training for COs is that inmates are blue, you're green, they're liars, everything they say is a manipulation and a lie. And they ingrain this mentality that it's green against blue, green being the COs and blue being the inmates. And that if they're too friendly with an inmate, a male or a female, they start calling them inmate lover. You're an inmate lover. And they really politic hard against them. This is a common occurrence in these prisons, and it's common behavior even today of correctional officers. They will ostracize a CO and marginalize him for being nice to inmates because they want you to dog out inmates. It's just a common mentality, right? And that's everywhere I've ever been. I've seen it the worst in SMY. That's where they really push that line, that inmate hater attitude, inmate lover attitude. for COs, and I've seen them actually dog out COs for being just kind and respectful and cordial to inmates, which is the way it should be. The way when I was an active Mexican Mafia member in Pelican Bay and all the other prisons, cops were cordial and they were cool, and you had a rapport with them. It was kind of like a working relationship that you had with them. They ran your block, but you really ran the block. If an inmate got out of line, they came to you, whether it be a female or male. Females came to us all the time that worked our blocks and told us, "Hey, this guy's exposing himself, or he's disrespecting me. Can you talk to him?" Yeah, and we all knew what that meant. We all knew what that meant. Straighten it out, and we would, and they loved it. They loved the ability to come to us and have problems resolved. Male COs do the same thing. It's no different. It's no different for male COs because there needs to be conflict resolution. There has to be conflict resolution for the individuals who work and live in that environment. The next photo is of Richard Aguirre. That's his wife circled in red. That's Laura Aguirre. Nobody really knows this, but Richard Aguirre had an affair with her when he was incarcerated at New Folsom State Prison. She was a CO or a prison worker at the time working in the kitchen. He told me of a specific incident when they first hooked up. There was a blackout, total power outage, and they snuck into the freezer and played the hokey pokey. I'm going to keep it respectful, though. That's his wife, but she married him. She quit her job. She married him, his legit wife, but they met in prison, and she was a CO or a prison worker. And a lot of people don't know that. Obviously, that's a picture of the senoras there, senoras being wives of Mexican Mafia members. And then there's this next instance. Honorable Lenore Schreiber, who was a judge up north who had an affair with the Cardan Choco, the guy depicted in the middle, and a relationship with Robot Salas. That's Robot Salas. This is a judge that had an affair with a Mexican Mafia member and participated in the bail, I think, of Robot. I'm just remembering this from long ago. I can get the details at some point. I'm sure that my buddy Mundo has them somewhere. But she was not even sanctioned. I believe she didn't get charged or anything. This was kind of brushed under the table. But this is a righteous liaison and affair that occurred between a Mexican Mafia member and a judge. So it's not just COs or males or females. Everybody succumbs to this. But I'm kind of show the thread of the corruption in these correctional institutions and the Justice Department. Then there was Ironwood. This is Ironwood. I was housed there for 8 years before my parole. And when I was there were a couple instances where females got escorted off the yard. They put them in handcuffs. They make a big showing, and then they walk them off the yard and tell them you're terminated. That's all they do. They don't prosecute them. They don't send them to jail. And it's the best kept secret in California that this is happening everywhere. When I was there was a girl named Jacqueline Medina, and she was really cool, young, and she had a lot of affairs with COs. They would talk about her, and I would hear it, and she even confirmed some of it, right? Because I used to work in the program office. I was the captain's clerk, and she was really close with me, and my other coworker Ernie. And there were times she would take us in the office, and we had her in there by ourselves, and we knew what that meant. We knew what it indicated, right? Like what she wanted. I would never touch her. I wouldn't have touched her with a 10-foot pole, not because she wasn't attractive or she wasn't desirable, but because I knew what it meant. I knew what it meant. It would have crashed my parole. It would have destroyed my marriage, and I would have got told on immediately because nobody gets away with this. Inmates tell. Inmates are jealous as they're not getting it, and you're getting it, and they will tell. But she would take us into the office by ourselves. She would bring us food, bring us candy, bring us stuff from the streets, and she was cool. But they started having affairs with her. All the COs, like a lot of COs, were running through this, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful sense to her, because I really, really, really liked her, and I advised her because I started hearing rumors that she was hooking up with inmates. Right, one of the rumors was that she was working at a block, and an inmate is responsible for cleaning the staff restroom. She would take him in there, and he would wax his dolphin. He would self-pleasure, and when he was getting close, she would finish him off. And I'm trying to be delicate in what I'm saying here, folks. But this happened on a number of instances, right? And it came. I heard about it. I heard about it, and I pulled up on her one day and I told her, "Hey, Jacqueline, uh, you know, I don't know what you're doing. It's not really none of my business. I don't want to know." I said, "But you're on the radar. You reel it in, reel it in, because I really, really thought she was a good person, right? I didn't care what her sexual practices were. Who am I to judge? She wanted multiple partners. That's cool. That's who she was. But she continued and continued and continued, jumping around from inmate to inmate, and they were all telling. There was one dude uh, who used to be a buddy of mine. We used to call him Slim. I'm not gonna say his name. He's paroled now. He's living his life. But he's the one that squealed on her. He gave up all the drawings. In fact, she was bringing a specific lubricant in from Victoria's Secrets and giving it to the inmates. And once she did that. Slim would go tell the IGIs, like, she brought this to this guy and it's in his cell. They would just go do a random cell search and confiscate the item and not do anything, but they were building this case. It wasn't until she hooked up with this guy, Farrell, James Farrell, inmate in my block. In fact, she gave him her cell phone number, and he was calling her. This stupid idiot was calling her from the jail wall phone, which is recorded and monitored by the gunrail officer. As soon as the gunrail officer heard him, who never used the phone, he never used the phone because he had another cell phone. I guess he sold it or lost it, but he resorted to using the wall phone this one time. This one time, he resorts to using the wall phone. He was known for never using the phone. And everybody thought it was odd that he got on the phone, including the gunrail officer, very observant, and listened and recorded the call. Who did he call? Jacqueline Medina, the CO. She was starting an affair with this guy. That's when they nabbed her. That's when they nabbed her, and they just escorted her off and told her, "You're going to be forced to resign," and she lost everything over an inmate. That was the terrible part. She lost her entire career, and she was a good girl. I mean, to me, she was. She was a kind human being. I know that you know that she has her past and whatever it was, but a lot of these COs get involved this way, and they seek validation through inmates. And it's not a difficult thing to compliment a woman and see her on a continuous basis. You essentially live with them on a daily basis. Um, and there have been people who've had affairs and gotten away with them in prison. It still happens today. It's happening today everywhere. Believe it or not, nobody wants to recognize this fact. But here's the kicker, right? When when uh, when you get caught doing this as an inmate, you're ruined. There's retaliation immediately. You're taken to the hole, placed in ADSEG or RHU that it's called now. You're given a chrono for manipulation of staff, and the danger is her saying that you manipulated her or forced her to do it. That's the danger. That's the danger. So, but here's the kicker, right? This is a policy, right? The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR, maintains a strict no fraternization policy for all staff, contractors, and volunteers. Any romantic, personal, or sexual relationship with a currently incarcerated person is strictly prohibited, deemed misconduct, and can result in severe disciplinary action, termination, or criminal prosecution. The department's regulations and rules governing relationship and conduct include overfamiliarity, Title 15, Section 3400. CDCR staff are explicitly required to avoid undue familiarity and must maintain a helpful but strictly professional attitude. Employees are prohibited from discussing their personal affairs with inmates. Staff sexual misconduct. This is covered in DOM Article 4. DOM stands for Department of Operations Manual, Article 44. Any sexual behavior or romantic involvement between staff and an incarcerated individual violates the Prison Rape Elimination Act. They have all this stuff that goes on to transactions and gratuities like gifts. They're bound by this, right? And there's law behind this stuff, right? But as soon as an inmate is discovered having an affair with a staff member, they are immediately taken to the hole. The goon squad comes in, they take all their stuff, they charge them, and if they're a lifer, they're doomed. They're doomed. They actually punish the inmate while sweeping the actual criminal act under the rug and just terminating the employee. There have been very few employees for the CDC prosecuted for having affairs with inmates. You'd be hard pressed to find a couple of cases, and I only know of one. But here's the kicker, right? Because officers hold authority over prisoners, incarcerated individuals cannot legally consent. Sexual or romantic relationships between staff and inmates are illegal and classified as sexual abuse and heavily penalized. For instance, under California Penal Code Section 289.6, it carries up to a 3-year sentence in state prison. And federal guidelines carry up to 15 years for a CDC or a correctional officer having sex with an inmate. So the inmate is actually being sexually abused. Doesn't matter if he consents, if he says, yeah, he enjoys it, he has a long time affair with the CO. In the eyes of the law, it's abuse under the color of authority, right? There's actual penal code sections and federal rules of criminal procedure that prohibit this, federal laws that prohibit this, yet the inmate is charged with manipulation of staff and put in a hole. There's a twisted system here that doesn't recognize the real problem is in COs violating the law. I'm not a CO hater. I'm not. I know a lot of good CDC officers that are righteous, upstanding people, right? I know a lot of female CDC officers, righteous, upstanding people. But there are those few that do this. And it happens a lot more frequently than you'd expect. It's food for thought, folks. It's food for thought. Why would the CDC penalize an inmate who had been sexually abused by a CO officer, a correctional officer? It doesn't. It's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive. And why would that same information be used to deny his parole at the board? Because it is. It is used. Anything you do, any type of misconduct, particularly manipulation of staff, is directly linked to your criminal behavior, your commitment offense. And it's just, I've always thought that this was a twisted system of penalizing inmates who participated in affairs with COs who willingly invited them to have sex with them. Why would the inmate be punished and not the CO? I don't understand that. Well, there's a lot in the CDC that doesn't make sense. There's a lot in the CDC that doesn't make sense. In fact, at some point, I'm going to talk to a former CO who's agreed to come on the show. He's going to tell us all about the Ironwood imbroglio and fiasco. And another good buddy of mine, my brother, Hector Bravo, has a little bit of insight on this. I might expound on this topic a lot more, but I thought it was a different kind of topic. Involves Mexican Mafia prison, a bunch of different inmates, right? But it's just food for thought. It's food for thought. All right, that does our episode for the day, folks. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. I've thought about this one for a while, and I just wanted to get a little banger to you. With that said, enjoy your day, and as always, stay safe. Peace out.
This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Boots.